Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodríguez, streaming with you live Sunday through Sunday. Oh my God, Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. The Dallas Cowboys have been eliminated in the wild card round versus the San Francisco 49ers. It was the first time that both of these teams were in the same playoffs since 1998. They faced off in the wildcard round, and the Cowboys were the team to be eliminated. It was a frustrating game to watch. We'll talk about it all here on Primetime. We'll talk about the one awkward conversation that is seemingly already popping up for the Cowboys, which is a Mike McCarthy conversation. And then just to close out the show with a smile on our faces, maybe, we'll give some random good game shout-outs to some Cowboys players here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. So, thank you for joining the show. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Let's talk about it. Let's try to pour our hearts out on this one, and let's try to have some fun here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. If you're watching on Facebook, you don't have to hit the like button if you don't want. You can hit the sad button. You can hit the angry button. Whatever makes you feel better. Let's start the show officially. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodríguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On-Demand Sports Talk Network with a lot more content coming your way, and this will be painful to say, throughout the offseason. You can check out adcsports.com/Dallas for more Cowboys content, and of course, if you're into the Mavericks as well. Let's talk about this game. What is one word you would use to describe the Cowboys season? Shout out to Burner Account, who is saying same old Cowboys. Shout out to Louis, who's watching from ADC Sports Nashville. ADC Sports Nashville Sports still alive. That is right. The Titans still hold the number one seed in the AFC. Good luck to the Titans since, ADC Sports Nashville. We are rooting for ADC Sports Nashville now. But anyways, back to the Cowboys. What is one word to describe the Cowboys season? Or the end to the Cowboys season, whatever you guys want to throw out there. Burner Account will say typical. Neil Williams will say disappointing. JT Smith going for a little bit more than one word, but saying same bull, same BS 27 years in a row. F this team. Man, I understand the frustration. Pathetic, says Steve Andrews. Diamond says underwhelming. Sotoman says tough, and Johnny Bow says very disappointed. What is one word to describe the Cowboys season? I want to say disappointing, but I don't know if that is, I would say undisciplined. Maybe that would be my one word for this game, undisciplined. I believe that is the one thing that was the most frustrating to watch, to be honest. Stevie Mac saying, hit that like button and share this stream because we bring the fire unlike the Dallas imposters. Thank you to Stevie Mac. Thank you for being here. I will say undisciplined. That will be my one word to describe the Cowboys season, and maybe I'm describing the end to the Cowboys season. But you cannot have the 14 penalties that the Cowboys had versus the 49ers. We will have a lot of discussions on this game. We will talk on this show and the offseason in general. We'll talk about, and I'm sure we'll have discussions about Dak Prescott. We'll have discussions about Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore. Maybe some people will come in with some hot takes. Maybe some people will want to move on from Dak Prescott, which I believe is not even a real possibility for the Cowboys. Fortunately, you guys know that I support Dak Prescott because I think he's a good quarterback for the team. But I know that we'll have Kellen Moore discussions and we'll have Mike McCarthy discussions. And In a little bit on the show here, we'll talk about the Jason Lackenfora report that was suggesting that the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, it wouldn't be a surprise if they move on from Mike McCarthy. We'll get into that, and we're already getting a lot of comments here. Fire McCarthy, Kellen Moore out. I at least appreciate that we're not having, the cut Dak conversation, because I agree that with Neil Williams over here, the Dak is not the problem. And I also agree with Mel at the same time that, hey, he did play like shit. He did play that way, Dak Prescott did. And it was, however, not as bad as I think many people will say, because I think the Cowboys were just putting themselves in very unfortunate situations. And you had these drive-killing penalties, not only on offense, but on defense too, with neutral zone infractions, with offsides. We had 2 holdings called against defensive linemen. We never see one holding against one defensive lineman. We never see those penalties. And the Cowboys not only got 2 of those called against them, but when we actually watched the replay, there was no way of saying that wasn't a flag, right? Like Neville Gallimore was Randy Gregory was clearly holding the offensive lineman. So you had these moments of frustration. You definitely did. I will say this undisciplined. Mel says, Mo, you wasn't supposed to repeat that. I know, but I had to. Like I couldn't skip that word this one time, to be honest. And Alex Flores says, Dak is an important part of the problem, no doubt. And we're not going to say that Dak played a strong game on this one. But man, think about that final drive. The sack, the penalties, the CeeDee Lamb drop, and you get a lot of things going on that offense that are not fixed if you change the quarterback, right? So we will clearly not have a conversation, I believe, of changing quarterbacks anytime soon in the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe that's for the best. I believe that sometimes we fall under this Family Guy kind of scene in which we want to know what's in the mystery box. But the mystery box is highly unlikely to get you a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Dak Prescott has proven before that he can have strong performances even in the playoffs. Not saying that was the case today. Definitely was not. The entire offense was off, as it was for most of the second half of the season, to be honest. The story of this Cowboys team was, and actually this could even be a word to describe the Cowboys season, which was the first question of the show, but it was so anticlimactic. Think about it. September, October, the Cowboys offense was on top of the league. This offense was one of the most efficient in the NFL, one of the most highest scoring offenses in the league, and then they hit a slump. And I'm saying anticlimactic because we were waiting for that slump to be over. We were waiting for the Cowboys to get over the hump, to wake up on offense and be the dominant offense that they were expected to be at the beginning of the season. We never got to that point. Unfortunately. And we'll place a lot of blame in a lot of players and coaches, maybe, but the point is it never happened, right? The Cowboys offense never got back to being one of the most efficient, one of the most explosive, so on and so on. So I would change my word actually to anticlimactic. What is up, burner account? Thank you for your comment and your donation. Mo, this is a 26-year trend, the common denominator. Of course, burner account means the front office, Jerry Jones and company. And I understand that. I understand that frustration because I will tell you that. I will tell you what. And I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking about writing an article about it on adcsports.com when I get my thoughts together, and maybe when we have the chance to write that article with a cooler head, maybe. But let me tell you what I've been thinking on my drive home after watching today's game. I've been thinking about one thing after the loss. All this week, I got to watch videos from the 90s, the Cowboys, 49ers, classic, amazing rivalry in the NFC Championship games that were the true Super Bowls of those times because no one was at the level of these two franchises. I was reading about them as well. David Lombardi from The Athletic had a tremendous article last year reliving that rivalry. And it was a fun experience because it really was a way for maybe me as a younger follower of the team to get a clearer idea of what that rivalry was. But I also got an opportunity to realize something that we already kind of knew, but kind of refreshed my mind. Those were so different times. Free agency was not the same free agency that we know now until 1994. We didn't see a competitive league as now, in which we see way more parity across the 32 teams in the NFL. And we have not seen the Cowboys have success in this modern NFL. And it also could be a conversation around Dak Prescott, in the fact that people who don't like Dak Prescott usually will talk to you about Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. And that's okay. I envy fans that got to watch Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. But the fact is, it's a different league, and you're not going to be in those same situations now. Now you're in a league in which is extremely difficult to find a quarterback that is capable of starting for an NFL franchise. And as we were talking about, like, you get this mystery box that people want to open. People want to go get another quarterback and things like that, when at some point you got to realize Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Even if that description does not fit with what we thought about the Cowboys in the 90s. So I don't know if I got my point across there, but I will say it again just in case. Dak is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I believe. Not top 2, maybe not top 3, but that can be true even if it's not the same description that you would give to the top quarterbacks of the league in the 90s. Teams win Super Bowls, not quarterbacks, says Clay Cup. Exactly. And the truth of this game is that the Cowboys didn't win the protection battle. They didn't win the running battle. They were not getting separation probably in the secondary, and all 22 will tell us more about this. But at times it felt like Dak was not throwing the ball because the receivers were not getting open. And it was apparent at some moments in the red zone as well. However, I agree with Bailey. Like, Dak, okay, he played that. Not a great game from Dak, but also so did the rest of the team. The entire team was underperforming, And if you take a realistic look around the NFL, who else would have performed better in this exact situation? When you're getting the protections blown up, when you're not getting receivers winning, and when you're playing with conservative play calling through most of 3 quarters, because that's what we saw once again from the Cowboys. Conservative play calling for some reason in the first quarter and in the second quarter. And we talked all week long about how the 49ers defense was good against the run, but pure against the pass. And they attacked their cornerbacks very few times in this game at the beginning of the game. Of course, at some point, the 49ers already had a 2-possession lead, and they were able to just stick to their thing, run the football, which we knew that they were going to run the football on the Cowboys. The objective for this game was to not let them do so for a long time. But they were able to do so all game long because they were always leading. With Dak's contract, team will get gutted more, says Clay Cup. D-Law played well too, and we'll actually have a segment on today's show that is called shout-outs, because I want to shout out the players that did play good football. It's neither it's defense or offense. It's Mike McCarthy, says Stephanie, and we'll have that conversation as well. Jason says, I saw no 12 personnel in the game. Very little. I don't know if there were some plays, but I also did not see a lot of 12 personnel. D-Law Sock says Denise neither. I don't know about that. I think that D-Law had a good game, to be honest. Connor Williams says, Roman, I hate you. Williams had a bad football game. He really did. One of the positions that the Cowboys need to address in the offseason, left guard. Randy Gregory, penalties were bad. What are you doing? He must be. I don't think that is right. But I don't think that final portion of the comment is right from Alfonso, but it was a tough spot for Randy Gregory. 3 penalties on him, 2 neutral zone infractions. I will give him the benefit of the doubt because Duke Manyweather, who is an offensive line guru, actually was arguing on Twitter that those were Trent Williams' false starts. And I need to watch the replay to be in agreement with him or in disagreement before actually jumping on one side of this discussion. But at least I think it's worth bringing it up. Duke Manyweather said that was on Trent Williams and that those were a mistake from the refs. And actually, man, let's talk about the refs for a moment, and not in the sense that maybe you guys are thinking about, but I believe that there were some complaints on social media that I didn't agree with. And I'm talking about that after the fake punt, when the referees were giving the 49ers a chance at substituting their players. I think that's just terrible coaching from the Cowboys. I don't think that's on the refs at all. The rules are very clear. They've always have been very clear. If you make any substitution, the opposing team will get the opportunity to make a corresponding substitution. And that is just because it's logical to have that rule in place. Because if you have a wide receiver on any given play, you take him out and you put in a tight end, the opposing team should have the right to maybe put a safety or a linebacker on him instead of a cornerback. So it has always made sense that if you make a substitution, the opposing team should have that right as well. But the Cowboys were so late in making that substitution, and the referees just giving time to the 49ers to do the same. It is not on the ref that the clock is winding down. And I saw a lot of complaints on that, but I think that the referees got that right. Fast forward towards the end of the game, I also think that the collision with Tyler Biadasz and Dak Prescott from the ref, even though it was frustrating to watch, I think that he was doing his job. I think, let's talk about that because I know that Mike McCarthy is getting a lot of fire on social media for that one as well. I kind of like the idea of Dak Prescott quarterback draw at the end of the game. I know it's controversial. I know it's not ideal, but put things in a balance. On the one side, you can throw two deep shots, two Hail Marys, and try to hope for the best, hope for a Cowboys miracle game-winning touchdown. Or you can just try to get closer and take a deep shot from maybe the 30, the 20, more or less. I think that actually Dak, maybe in that particular play, he had pure awareness, because I would say that if Dak runs that football for a fewer yards and goes down earlier, the Cowboys might have had more time to spike that football and get the time to take that other shot. And also, I think it was a little bit of a pure awareness moment, because maybe you want to hand the referee the football right away, because the rule is also very clear. The referee needs to touch the football before you can snap the ball again. So maybe handing the referee the football right away, you don't get that awkward situation that they had with Tyler Biadasz. It was just so frustrating to watch in general. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, I think those are my takes on those two plays. Stevie Mac said something about the refs. Let me try to find it here. The one thing that I'll complain, says Stevie Mac in the chat, about the refs, about in that game, is a ton of missed bad holds during that game on both sides, including the first opening touchdown by the 49ers, a blatant holding, in my opinion, on Micah Parsons. Later on the game, you had another blatant holding on Micah. I agree with Stevie Mac. It maybe happened on both sides. Pure officiating, but this has been the story all season long, so definitely not the reason why the Cowboys lost. Because also, a lot of the 14 penalties that the Cowboys committed, a lot of them were legit. I think that the Connor Williams holding was very picky, though. I think that was not holding at all. Tommy Egan says, coaching team discipline again. Earl Phelps over at Facebook says, the penalties hurt. Thank you for a good season, boys. Check the first touchdown. Parsons watched the call to Stephanie. No call holding on that play. And that is from Brandon Ayuk, actually. Let's see. Shout out to Alfonso. Thank you for, calling for the likes here in the chat. Abdul says, Dallas Cowboys hired Mauricio Rodríguez as new general manager. Maybe. I think that happened on Madden the other day that I was playing. Bailey says Dak had a bad game. Hopefully, he learned a lot. How old is this host? I am 22 years old. Thank you for joining the show. Shout out to Dallas Young. Thank you for being here. Why did we wait till the end of the game to run Dak? We need him to run more in big games like this. I've always called for Dak Prescott to get more runs here in general. For example, I will always call for more read option with Dak Prescott. I think that is a tremendous strength that the Cowboys could have in goal line situations, yet that they don't have. I'm for a long time here in this second half of the season, I thought that it had to do with his calf. I don't know if it did, but the Cowboys played conservative football for most of 3 quarters, and the 49ers should sure appreciated it, I believe, because that helped them stick to their running game, which we knew coming into the game that the running game for the 49ers was going to be successful, and we knew that if the Cowboys were going to win this game, it had to do with forcing Jimmy G to make throws, to forcing the 49ers to steer away from the running game into the passing game. We know that was supposed to be the game plan. Yet the Cowboys were super conservative earlier in the game. I understand all of the Dak Prescott comments. I understand where the frustration is coming from. I do think he's still the answer for this team at that position. I don't think that the Cowboys will have a conversation at the quarterback position. Kellen Moore says, Dennis, I praise Gunn, but who wants him now? And Dallas Young says, where was all the creative plays Kellen was saving? Exactly. That is what we also wanted to see. More creative plays from Kellen. By the way, they tried a hook and lateral in the 3rd and 16 play. I thought it was going to work. The design was there. It was a good design. Some weird things as well. Some weird 2nd and 10 runs. Some weird game managing situations on 4th down in which they didn't go for it at some point. One of the most conservative punts that I've seen in a while, maybe. And then right off the bat, in the first play, in case you didn't notice this, that was weird to me. The Cowboys call a play-action play in the 1st down of the game on offense. It is a play-action play in which Dak kind of sprints out to the right side with Tyler Viadish and Jeremy Sprinkle as their personal bodyguards on this play, right? They're blocking up front, they're running with Dak, and that's basically scheming Viadish and Sprinkle on Nick Bosa. I don't think that Nick Bosa really disrupted that play. I think that the 49ers won that play in coverage, but it was still a little bit weird to me. I love the design. I don't know if you want to do that versus Nick Bosa instead of letting maybe La'el Collins handle 97. And I'm not saying that La'el Collins has had a perfect season, but do you need to scheme Tyler Viadish and Jeremy Sprinkle on Nick Bosa on the first play of the game? I don't know. Maybe I'm being picky, but I definitely did not like that play. And right off the bat, that was like a weird moment to watch. Cowboys killed themselves, says David Siqueiros. Penalties, no running game. Dak held on the ball too long at times. No offense in this game. And I will assure you that once we get into the All-22, when we start watching the replays more in depth, we knew also that the 49ers were going to force Dak Prescott to hold on to that ball for that second longer, maybe. We knew that they were going to be aggressively rotating their safeties because they have done so all season and because it kind of worked when the Cardinals played the Cowboys in Week 17. So we kind of knew going into the game that was going to happen. And that's why throughout the week we had discussed the Cowboys winning the protection battle, which they clearly didn't, I believe. Should have run screens against an aggressive defense, as Junks. I don't know about the screens because the Cowboys have had so little success in recent weeks. And some of them were not quite good. I didn't want draft season to start this soon, says Dallas Junk. Me neither. I'm not even ready for draft season, to be honest with you. Let's talk about Mike McCarthy because apparently this conversation is already popping up. Do you agree or disagree? There's a conversation to be had around Mike McCarthy. Do you agree or disagree? There's a conversation to be had. Is it too early to start throwing maybe fire into Mike McCarthy's seat? Or do you think he is not the man for the job and you think it is time to have that conversation? I'm looking forward to your answers because I know that we'll be kind of split here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Let's see. Burner account says yes. Russell goes with disagree over at Facebook. Bailey agrees. Jung says, do you think that Brian Flores is a better fit? I would like the Cowboys to get an offensive-minded coach if they decide to move on from Mike McCarthy. Stevie Mack says he agrees. David agrees as well. Alfonso says, yes, Mike is incompetent. Let's see, at least Cowboys fans have perspective, says Gregory over at YouTube, representing Niners, I believe. Let's see. Keep him over Kellen Garrett Moore, though, says Burner account. And that is where it gets interesting. There was a Jason LaCanfora report early this morning on the Cowboys. And here's the thing. Let's talk about that report. LaCanfora reported that the Cowboys could consider moving on from Mike McCarthy to, pave the way for Kellen Moore to become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, which is something that right now I don't think that Cowboys fans really want to see, especially after that playoff game and how it ended. I don't know what to make out of this report. Jason LaCanfora has had some accurate reports over the years. Not always. Maybe some of them are a little bit trying to reach. And I think this is where this one falls. And if you read the actual article instead of just the headline, you will read that the report is saying that there's one source that knows Jerry Jones very well that is saying that he wouldn't be surprised. And I think that is the key phrase here. He wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jones moved on from McCarthy to name Kellen Moore his head coach. Now, I think those are two very different things. Like if you have a report out there that is saying the Cowboys could consider to move on from Mike McCarthy to make room for Kellen Moore, that is one thing. And another thing is I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys do something like that. Those are two very different conversations. Here's my instant gut feeling on this conversation. I think that McCarthy stays, and I think that if he ends up being replaced by another coach, I think it could be Kellen Moore, even if we're not fans of that, just basing our judgment on what the Cowboys have done. Even if we don't agree with it, the Cowboys have trust in Kellen Moore. We don't know if that will change after this playoff loss to the 49ers, but so far we know that Jerry Jones kind of likes Kellen Moore, and that is why he's stuck around even after Jason Garrett was fired from the team, and with Scott Linehan, Rod Marinelli, and all of those guys, all of that regime, and now you're getting in this conversation in which you don't know if he can be exactly as Burner account put it, Garrett 2.0. And I'm not talking about Garrett's success as a head coach. I'm talking about the fact that that is more or less the circumstance in which Jason Garrett was made head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Bring in Brian Flores over here. McCarthy stays and Kellen goes. I would look at maybe other offensive coordinators in the league. That is what I would like to see from the Cowboys if they decide to move on. I think Kellen Moore still can be successful. I really do believe that Kellen Moore can be successful, be it in the Cowboys or elsewhere. I would say that the most ideal scenario for the Cowboys is to maybe keep McCarthy and keep the two coordinators, to be honest, even though a lot of people will not be fans of that. But I would be looking at maybe Mike McDaniel. I would be looking at Hackett from the Packers. Coaches like that actually have a scheme, which is the one thing that I don't that make me doubt about Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator and potential head coach is, do we know if he has an offensive scheme, or is it just plays that he can throw out on any given game? because you need to have a scheme to fall back on, and that is the one thing that I don't know if Kellen Moore has. I would stop being a Dallas fan, says burner account, if Moore becomes the head coach. Moore can be successful with Dak as a quarterback, says Ajayi. Peter Rizzo says Moore couldn't lead a battalion of ants over a sugar cube. That is putting it bluntly. Dak cannot take us to the Super Bowl, not an elite quarterback, says two-tone. That will always be the reply until the Dallas Cowboys win a Super Bowl with another quarterback. Byron Leftwich is another good possibility. I would like Leftwich. I would definitely like Leftwich, It's a tough offense to run. It is a tough offense to run because it is an offense that puts a lot of stress at the quarterback position. But I would like Leftwich, especially if you see the Tampa Bay Bucks making another deep run in these playoffs. You would think maybe those more traditional offenses still work in the league, because that is what Byron Leftwich is running over there in Tampa. Kellen should have left for Boise State, says Joshua. Here is my gut feeling. I think that Mike McCarthy stays. I think that they find a way to make Kellen Moore stay as well. And I think that more than likely, Dan Quinn ends up elsewhere after 2021. And let's try to think about things with a cooler head on Mike McCarthy. Let's talk about it. Because clearly, he's not the greatest in-game coach of the NFL. He is a liability in game management situations, in decision-making, clock management, all of that. We know that McCarthy can be a liability on that. We know that he is not maybe the coach that will get the entire team fired up for a playoff game on game day. But we do know, and that is something that I still believe, that he has proven that he can build a winning football team in terms of culture. I think this has been one of the best cultures that we have seen from any Cowboys team recently. When was the last time that we've had a top-tier defense? And that has to do with Dan Quinn, but I also believe that has to do with roster building. Think about all of the players that are also new to this football team that were not here in 2020, because we talk about Mike Nolan, Dan Quinn, but also the roster makeup is quite different. Let's see. Fab Sosa says, this dude is blaming our coach. The players play. Stick to MLS. Juan Goofy, says Fab Sosa. I don't think that Fab is actually, if that is in reply to what I'm saying, I don't know that Fab has his volume turned up on his phone or his computer, though. I don't know if that's for me, though. Hope it isn't, because that is actually not what I'm saying here in the show. Anyways, this defense will be crap next year, says Ajayi. Watch. Could be, especially if Dan Quinn goes. Bailey says, Dan Quinn goes, who will be our defensive coordinator? I don't know. I really don't know. There's some candidates out there. I know that some former head coaches will get some opportunities, like Mike Zimmer, Big Fangio. I don't know if the Cowboys will call one of those. McCarthy says T. Phelps needs time to build a program. Garrett was given years and didn't win anything. And that is the most important thing of it all. I think that you cannot move on from McCarthy after just a full season with Dak Prescott. Who are you bringing in? Also, that is the biggest question for me. None of the big money-making players showed up today, says Charlene Evans. That is something that I agree with, too. I don't think that, other than DeMarcus Lawrence, I think that Lawrence had a good game. Among the big money-making players, like Charlene Evans is saying, I think that the one player that showed up is D-Law. I think he had a good game. I think he was still playing some intense football, even late in the game when some of the players were a little bit tired. Mike McCarthy says Derek should be calling plays, not Moore. It's going to be an intense offseason, isn't it? It is going to be an intense offseason. Fire McCarthy, promote Dan Quinn, and keep Kellen Moore. There is tons of good head coach candidates, says Dallas Young. Wally says Dak can scramble. There were a lot of issues with Dak today. I think that he was kind of able to scramble at times. D-Law balled out, no doubt. All right, here we go. Just to end the show in a positive note, which Cowboys deserve, and I misspelled that comment actually. I know I didn't. Which Cowboy deserves a good game shout out? Who is one Cowboy player that you want to say, hey, he had a good game actually, even though the loss was painful? And I think that number one on this list is so unsurprising, but it is Micah Parsons. Man, Micah, once again, he had a good game, even though the Cowboys lost. The way that he closes in on running backs, on receivers, on quarterbacks, he is the fastest moving player in the field every time that he's out there. So Micah valuable Parsons, as Charlene Evans is saying. Amari Cooper, says Bailey. Cooper getting some love. Hey, I love this one. Alfonso is saying Banderich. I think that Banderich had some great moments, including that big, huge third down stop that he had late in the game and that we were all super hyped about. Stevie Max is Dalton Schultz. I think that Schultz also deserves a shout out on this one as well. He was showing up for the Cowboys consistently. And I've got a little bit of potentially bad news, but I think that I've seen some Cowboys fans try to assume that Dalton might not cost a lot in the offseason. But I got to tell you, I think that it's my obligation to say Dalton Schultz is going to secure the bag on this offseason. I believe that. Joseph says Trent owned Parsons. Joseph is a 49ers fan. Listen, respect to the 49ers. They won the game. I don't think that Trent Williams owned Parsons, though. I think that Trent Williams owned quite a few players on this game. I don't know that he did Parsons. I don't know that they even had plenty of one-on-ones, and at least we know that Parsons got him on one. So, again, a respect to the 49ers, well-deserved victory. I think they've earned the right to give some more comments here. Shout out to Fat. He is just having some fun out there. Shout out to Fat, who is saying, we subscribed for Skywalker. Who is this guy? Shout out to Fat, man. Just make sure you hit the like button, please, Fat. Anyways, Ralph Taylor says the Parsons got held on almost every play. I agree with that, too. Armstrong actually played well. Stevie Mack is right with the few snaps that he got. Gallimore, man, this really broke my heart. Gallimore was out there on Twitter saying that, hey, I let you all down, but please don't come at my family. Why are fans like that? Why are fans tweeting about players' families and stuff? That just doesn't make sense to me. Good battle in the trenches, 50-50, says Bailey. Trent shut Parsons down. Man, I don't agree with that, to be honest. Parsons, a rookie. Watch out next season. Oh, man. Fab is just getting better and better. I'm removing my subscription. Damn, Fab, don't do that. They're going to fire me here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime if you remove your subscription. Damn, man. I understand the frustration, though. We're all frustrated with the Cowboys loss. And third down holding, that was an unseedy play, says JV Catbuyer. Cowboys gave this game away. I agree with that. Anyways, before I leave you, I think that we could recap the show with a few, comments here on the Primetime show. I think that the biggest reason why the Cowboys lost today versus the 49ers 100% was the penalties. Not only because of the plays of the penalties themselves, but I don't have to go back to the box score and the play-by-play chart to know that the average to-go distance on third down was way long. At some point in the third quarter, it was at 11 yards, I believe. I don't know what the final number was, but I can assure you it was long, third down and long after third down and long after third down and long, and you're just not going to have a sustainable offense that way. And that is the most frustrating thing about it, because if the Cowboys had not committed all of these penalties, you really do wonder how does the final scoreboard looks like. And I'm not, of course, taking any merit away from the 49ers because they took advantage of the situation and they actually ran the ball pretty well. and Jimmy G made some really legit third down passes. But you gotta wonder if the Cowboys offense looks way different in third and short situations. But that's part of the lessons that the Cowboys need to learn after being so conservative most of the second half of the season. Mo, do you think you will see this team win anything in your lifetime? Says burner account. I do. Hey, this is why we follow sports, and I believe that sports do. It's a will, like they say about life. I think that at some point they will, and I think they might not be that far away from it. I have some questions that I will make on tomorrow night's episode here on Primetime. Shout out to Stevie Mac doing the work out there in the chat. I appreciate Stevie Mac, as always, a legend. Jake says, why Kelvin didn't play, and sometimes I hate these teams, says Jake. It was difficult to solve out Anthony Brown on this game for Kelvin Joseph. The real question was that Zeke last game as a Cowboy, says Dallas Young. I would be surprised. To be honest. Here's one thing, though. Ezekiel Elliott did say after the game that he played on a torn PCL. So he opened up about his injury. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Zeke said that he was playing on a torn PCL. He is a warrior, no doubt about it, but the Cowboys still need to figure out their running game because it's not all about Zeke. I don't think that the problem is all about Zeke. Do you think that Miles Austin and Tony Romo and Des Bryant need to come back? That's my question, says Colton. He shouldn't have been playing. Of course, if that, just in case that isn't, like a joke, of course not. Those players are out of here. He shouldn't have been playing. Mauricio, do you think this season was a bust? I will say goodbye with this question from Charlene Evans. I said it. We had this conversation last week about what we needed to consider the Cowboys season a success. And I think that we needed a wild card win. I think that we needed to win in the wild card round. The Cowboys didn't get that. So I will say that, yes, I believe that this season was a bust. Not only because of the loss in the wild card round, but also because you had it figured out in October. And then something went wrong and you couldn't get back to being the same offense in all of November, in all of December. And let me remind you that the December schedule was the New Orleans Saints, the Giants, the Washington football team twice, and the Cardinals. And then you close the season with the Philadelphia Eagles. You had to figure out the offensive side of things in the second half of the season. To me, it was a bust. Only beat two decent teams all season, says Stevie Mac, and went one and done on top of it. Tease lame sauce, says Stevie Mac. Yeah, I think it was a bust. I think it was, which is what will make this conversation around Mike McCarthy relevant in the upcoming weeks. I, however, do not believe that the Cowboys will move on from McCarthy, and I'm not sure that they should. Not sure that they shouldn't either, but I am leaning towards them staying with McCarthy because honestly, I don't know what else you can do here in this situation. Just like our quarterback, a bust, says Devon. I will read this tweet from Jonathan Schultz because that is what I believe regarding Dak Prescott. I agree with his tweet. I will read it to you. Let me find it really quick. This is Jonathan Schultz from the Draft Network. If I'm not mistaken, that is where he works. Let me see here. Jonathan Schultz tweeted out, history will remember those bailing on Dak Prescott after this game. I agree with that take. I think that Dak is the quarterback that you want to build your team around. But he had a bad game today, and it is fair to say so. It is fair to say so. But also, I think that once we take a look at this replay with a cooler head, we might figure out that final drive when the Cowboys had three timeouts, that drive wasn't on Dak, I believe. Dallas Junk says, bro, what do you want to keep McCarthy? That's a fair question. Here's where I'm at. And this is my instant reaction. Looking forward to learning more about potential candidates and try to figure out what the Cowboys' path should look like. I'm not sure about moving on from Mike McCarthy because I think that he did a lot of good things. It is his second season with the team, first one with Dak Prescott at the helm, and the Cowboys won 12 games. And during the first half of the season, this was a dominant contending team. And I don't know that we felt as confident going into the playoffs ever with any other coaching staff other than this one. Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, through most of the year, had good seasons. I know that Kellen Moore's offense fell apart late in the year, but I don't know when was the last time that we thought such good things about a coaching staff. But I really don't know. If the Cowboys want to move on to another coach, I'm here for it. I wouldn't love Kellen Moore being the head coach of the team, which I realize Cowboys fans also do not want. I just don't know if we're sure about Jerry Jones being on the same page as Cowboys Nation. So if you're telling me that it's between Kellen Moore stepping up as head coach and Mike McCarthy remaining at head coach, I would much rather keep McCarthy, to be honest, at the helm. With Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator still, maybe. And I know that a lack of change is not really motivational as we head into the offseason, but it might be the best path to take, unless, of course, you're considering an outside head coaching hire that we don't know if that will be the case, but we will find out pretty soon. It is going to be an intense week of covering the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk more about it tomorrow night. Thank you guys for joining the show. Thank you guys for joining ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. We'll talk more about this with a cooler head throughout the week. But right now, I believe we're all frustrating, and it is quite difficult. I will tell you what, it is difficult to do these shows right after such a playoff loss. We wanted the Cowboys to move on to the divisional round for Dak Prescott's prophecy to turn true of facing Tom Brady and company again. It is not going to happen. Stevie Mack says, I need a drink. I think that a lot of us do, and I will actually have one. But I will see you tomorrow night. Make sure you smash that like button. Share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. We will talk more tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodríguez. I will see you tomorrow night on Primetime. Thank you, guys.